So welcome everyone. Yeah, I think no introduction needed today. All of us are familiar. So yeah, anyone who feels like, I think Jyotsna ji wanted to share something regarding art and uh, beauty and the path of yoga. So please, if you are ready, I can search it for you if you speak it.
In incarnate word, na? Okay. Art and yoga. Somebody asks mother, is it possible for a yogi to become an artist, or can an artist be a yogi? What is the relation of art to yoga? I chose this subject because it always interested me a lot. And she said, yes, the two are not so antagonistic as you seem to think. There is nothing to prevent a yogi from being an artist or an artist from being a yogi. But when you are in yoga, there is a profound change in the values of things, of art as of everything else. You begin to look at art from a very different standpoint. It is no longer the one supreme, all engrossing thing for you, no longer an end in itself. Art is a means, not an end. It is a means of expression. And the artist then ceases to believe that the whole world turns around what he's doing, or that his work is the most important thing that has ever been done. His personality counts no longer. He is an agent, a channel, his art a means of expressing his relations with the divine. He uses it for that purpose, as he might have used any other means that were part of the powers of his nature. So the question which follows is, but does an artist feel at all any impulse to create once he takes up yoga? Whether he really feels like creating. And mother says, why should he not have the impulse? Now, I'll just take a few important sentences from it. If you want art to be the true and highest art, it must be the expression of a divine world brought down into this material world. All true artists have some feeling of this kind, some sense that they are intermediaries between a higher world and this physical existence. If you consider it in this light, art is not very different from yoga. But most often, the artist has only an indefinite feeling. He has not the knowledge. She talks about some artists who, in their creation, they did not put forward their personality as the most important factor. They considered their work as an offering to the divine. They tried to express by it their relation with the divine. And I tended to resonate with it because I went deeper into art when I had time, but it was not only because of that, because it was because I felt a connect with my, if I could put it that way, with my inner self at a much more stronger level. And when I would paint or create art, I would be rejuvenated by the time, even if I did a short amount of it. Whether it is, mother says ahead, that art and yoga are like same disciplines. It is a way of getting quiet and going within. And whether, but she also discusses in this entire chapter how things can get twisted and we can operate from a vital plane and not from the inner consciousness. And that is when it gets twisted and misconstrued and takes the form of an expression of the vital. And she further adds that once it is stemming from the vital, and if a person who has been living on that vital plane and creating gets into yoga, he suddenly finds that he's lost the impetus to create art, because the inspiration vanishes, because the vital element stands out very clearly. And I found that explanation absolutely, mind boggling, because that is exactly what happens to people who get blocks when they create a kind of titillating art or music or dance. And she so generously describes each art. She talks of painting, she talks of music, she talks of dance and creation. And she talks of Bach and Beethoven, and how they, in the last portion, she says, I will read the last two lines, and then if we have time, we can read in the middle. She says, she speaks of the concerto of Bach and Beethoven, and she says, the two are not alike on paper and differ to the outward ear, but in their essence, they are the same. One and the same vibration of consciousness, one wave of significant harmony touched both these artists. Beethoven caught a larger part, but in him it was more mixed with the interpolations and inventions of his mind. And Bach received less, but what he seized of it was purer. The vibration was that of the victorious emergence of consciousness, consciousness tearing itself out of the womb of unconsciousness in a triumphant uprising and birth. And there, in the last line, she negates, she says, the will of the divine is to manifest, not to remain altogether withdrawn in inactivity and an absolute silence. If the divine consciousness were really an inaction of unmanifesting bliss, she is referring to sannyasa above, there would never have been any creation. So it is a fantastic chapter.
Yeah, beautiful. Do you want to share a bit more on when you say that the vital element gets mixed? What exactly are you referring there? It would be nice for us to see how it gets mixed. Yeah.
The question which somebody asked her was, why are artists generally irregular in their
Uh-huh.
conduct and loose charactered?
Yeah.
You find many singers, artists, painters, dancers of loose character, loose moral character, or otherwise loose speech. So she brought the subject into that. When they are so, it is because they live usually in the vital plane. And the vital part in them is extremely sensitive to the forces of that world and receives from it all kinds of impressions and impulsions over which they have no controlling power. And often, too, they are very free in their minds and do not believe in the petty social conventions and moralities that govern the life of ordinary people. They do not feel bound by the customary rules of conduct and have not yet found an inner law that would replace them. As there is nothing to check the movements of their desire being, they lead easily a life of liberty, or what they call license. She says there is one way in which yoga may stop the artist's productive impulse. if the origin of his art is in the vital world, once he becomes a yogi, he will lose his inspiration. Rather, the source from which his inspiration used to come will inspire him no more, for then the vital world appears in its true light. It, it puts on its true value, and that value is very relative.
That's really very beautiful. Yeah.
Very
This
nice.
reminded me of this Freddie Mercury's movie. You know, there was this movie
Yeah.
made on his life. I think one can see that non-ethical character.
Vital was
Yeah,
predominant. Yes.
but then there is also a lot of emotional intensity which is then put in the artwork. Otherwise, without this life force, you cannot create so much. So there is a lot of emotive heart going into those creations, and yet involvement of the vital also. No reason is not ruling. In emotions are ruling, one can see.
He was truly in the vital.
Yeah, yeah.
You see, he was an Indian, he was a Parsi, as you know. And he never wanted anyone to know that he had an Indian origin. And till he got AIDS, because he was gay, and so it was then that in his dying days, he he said that I should have gone towards my roots.
Yeah, actually, the thing,
Yeah.
this intensities, emotional intensities, they are so powerful, so powerful.
Vital has solid
Yeah,
passion
yeah,
and drive.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, anyone who wants to share anything on this? This was also beautiful. The last few lines. The will of the divine is to manifest, not to remain altogether withdrawn in inactivity and in absolute silence. I think again, just like Mother and Sri Aurobindo also share about Ramana Maharishi. Many people from Ramana Maharishi's or their side, they come to Sri Aurobindo later, because once you have had that experience of absolute silence within the being, Mother and Sri Aurobindo's yoga starts after that. It's like a step. They say that nirvana is the first step of integral yoga, not the last. So many people from Ramana Maharishi's ashram were connected to Sri Aurobindo and Mother's yoga. Yeah, this is really very powerful. Yeah, please, I'll just mute myself and please share anyone.
Yeah, I want to just briefly say that this last sentence, like, I don't know why, but somehow I don't know, feel, I mean, I don't even know what word to use. That day, Monica, on the group, you had shared something, na, कि a withdrawn thing is not needed. It has to be, I mean, there has to be, I don't know, melody and harmony and creation, right? And yet it seems like, sometimes when you've had too much of that because it was vital ruled, somehow you are unable to see that it was vital ruled. You just see, you indulged or you loved, and you did not, what you got back was like, oh my god, so bizarre, that you don't ever want to enter that zone again. And then this withdrawal and the silence come, and it feels really good, right? And but somehow it also feels like a safety net, right? कि अब उधर जाना ही नहीं. So this balancing of not letting the vital come in and yet be, not be in love but be loved. It's like I hear it, I read it, I, like on paper get it, but it feels tougher to, again keep that guard down, that okay, of that I've had enough guard, and again kind of still be open again for just being loved. So it's just
मुझे लगता है that it's a process. So first we get indulged in the ego self and all these vital movements, and we suffer. We suffer through those movements. I think it's absolutely necessary to be in a withdrawn state for some time, because we don't like to suffer. None of us likes to suffer. But in that withdrawn or the Sakshi mode, if we stabilize ourselves for a longer time, it's, I think, again, a process of time, then the creation comes as a side effect of being there. So it's not an active process that you are involved in, but because you are drenched in that holy dip of Ganges, by effect, its expression will come out in a purer form, and the creation will happen through you. That is what I feel, that it's a process. First we go through all the kachada, then we don't want to be involved in the kachada, and then again, after some time, we are ready to emerge out of that shell that you were saying, and be like a butterfly. Yeah.
Because when when you don't want to indulge in the kachada, somewhere something in you feels like, oh, thank God, you're out. And kind of that few feeling. So, but it's, yeah, that's exactly what I also felt. But sometimes I was getting a bit confused, because now what you have said, it's a happening, right? Like that, it's like you have become like an open jar, an empty vessel, and things themselves would happen. Now you won't have to take an effort to come, let me love. You become love. So that is a happening. So sometimes when I read, it felt like, sitting there is not all right, go get out kinds. So that part, I think I was feeling a bit of.
I think that sitting part is absolutely necessary, because we need to establish ourselves as that passive Brahman, jo usme bhi bataya hua tha, what Sri Aurobindo was saying. And as I was shared, once the stability is really solid, the expression comes out, and that is what Mother, I feel, if I'm not wrong, that is what Mother talks about, your true individuality. Because everyone has their own unique Swadharma. So the expression of divine love, what you have, would be different for someone else, for me, So I think, again, what you were sharing, like an happening, and the mode of manifestation will be unique for each human being. So it is divine pure love, but it's like the curtains are different. The delicate curtains are really truly differently designed, and through which it comes out, the expression. Yeah.
If you actually try, you'll again be kind of falling into the ditch only, because then you'll be trying to replicate things that you think
Yeah.
are the way, right? So yeah.
This paragraph, the whole paragraph, if we read, it is relevant and significant to what Taru is saying. If by yoga, नहीं नहीं यही वाला नीचे नीचे जी, ये if by yoga you are capable of reaching this source of all art, that is the unconsciousness, the consciousness tearing out of the unconsciousness, then you are master, if you will, of all arts. Those that may have gone there before found it perhaps happier, more pleasant, or full of a rapturous ease to remain and enjoy the beauty and the delight that are there, not manifesting it, not embodying it upon earth. But this abstentation is not all the truth, nor the true truth of yoga. It is rather a deformation, a diminution of the dynamic freedom of yoga by the more negative spirit of sannyasa. Which, we grew up with the notion that taking sannyas and going to the mountaintop was it. And what are we guys doing here?
Yeah.
But they opened us up so beautifully.
Yeah. Yeah. On this, I want to share something. So I was listening to something, and there he was saying, the master who was talking, he was saying that it is not enough to say that I am not this, I am not this. So I am not thought, I am not feeling, I am not my body, I am not the movements. Yeah. He says it is not enough just to do the neti. One has to actually, what we were talking about, this withdrawal into ourselves. We have to know who we truly are. We have to know the nature of our truth. And then the manifestation would come out, the true manifestation. So usually, this spirit of sannyasa or neti neti, that, okay, I am not the body, the material world is not me, this is not me, that is not me, thought is not me. So we cannot stop there. But otherwise it will be like this, what mother is sharing, that this withdrawal from the, like a ascetic kind of a life. But what we are here, according to Mother and Sri Aurobindo, is the perfect manifestation of the divine. And divine, as beautifully said in the last few lines, it wants to manifest. Otherwise, why would the creation be? And that is the challenge, that, okay, in my inward life, I feel a lot of beauty, but in my actions, there is still a lot of ugliness. And this is the bridge that we all, in our own capacity have slowly to bridge. Yeah.
I would say and relate as a painter, or when I have seen artists closely in various different other fields. Whenever you plan to create something, a kind of a sobriety comes into you, and you become very silent for prolonged spans of time. You sleep with the thought, you dream of the thought, you wake up with those colors, you kind of get possessed by something, and you don't rest till you are silent inside and you sit quietly. And it's only when you connect within whatever you want to create, when you connect, a kind of a peace comes into you. And it's a very peculiar kind of a joy which comes, and then you create, then you do, then whatever you create, it doesn't matter whether you dance or you sing, or like when you sing a, a bhajan, it is so soulful because you are into it. So mother had a lot of depth into telling us in a palatable way.
True that. Yeah, absolutely. I think very relatable words, and very, like, the English is also so simple that one can really approach it. I remember the first time I got in touch with the words, it was very kind of approachable, that she talks, she's talking at our level, it felt. Later you realize that it's not our level, it's something else. But yeah, yeah. Yeah, but
Seemed more of a friend.
yeah,
Bindo seems to be somewhere here. You fear him, but
yeah. Yeah, Badalji, you want to share next?
I when I was learning about what is education, the basic terminology, what you understand by that term, like science. What is science? If you say physics, what is physics? So similarly, my question came in my life in the beginning after finishing the school. So, what is education? So I started reading the definition of the education various great people have given. So one was given by Swami Vivekananda. So Vivekananda says education is the manifestation of the perfection already in man. Man, woman means for mankind. So it is a manifestation of the perfection. So it is wrong to say that so and so is not perfect. It is perfect. When you are born, we are perfect. There is no short of perfection. There is no doubt. If we do not agree, that means we are in problem actually. It is up to us whether we believe it or not. So it is a manifestation of the perfection already in man. Due to various reasons, the things get covered up or diluted or diverted and all. So, there is one great, what say, psychologist. So he has given this, this I was reading. This ulta. So this is a graph, watch it, it's ulta. No, this one. So this professor's name, he is still surviving. is the mental state in terms of challenge level and skill level, according to Sis Mihaly. Sis, the spelling is very long one. CSIKZSZENTMI Mihaly. Seasoned Mihaly. So he has given a flow model, like we have been talking about some singers, Beethoven, or an artist. So when they're on the job, when they're in the normal the art, or the person who is doing the music and all, so they get into the flow level. So he is not present in the normal level in the world. He's totally absorbed in it. So in that sense, like mother was saying, that the yoga, as well as this flow, here Mikhali says that this is known as flow. So when you are in flow and the yoga, so you are not present in the physical world at the time. It was totally absorbed. So they are very close by. They are very close by. The terminology is very close by. And then the development takes place if somebody wanted to continue in that particular line or how. So then depending upon the choice of the person, so they develop into that. Otherwise, any art, in any art form, and if it is really, the person is really interested in that, so they very quickly he can raise it to that level. So the development can take place in that mind, that consciousness, and how the various steps. Like here, I got that synthesis of yoga, and you have sent that that paragraph, the passive and the active Brahma, passive and active Brahma. So there, so like in the synthesis means all the type of yoga which is prevalent. So that has been synthesized, and then this was made by uh, Sri Aurobindo. Here, what has happened is I find very difficult to understand some places. Some guru is required. Today's Guru Purnima day, some guru is required to understand. Whereas, like Ramakrishna Paramahans, he had different type of people, those used to come to him with the problem. He never invited people to come, but whoever has gone there. So in his own language, he used to understand that what he will understand. If he is from the remote village or he understands something else, so he used to talk in that language where he will understand, and maybe one or two words, that is sufficient, because they understand the practical life of it. And if somebody is highly educated, so he used to speak in that. Though he was not learned person, but he used to speak in that. So there it is easy to understand because it is very small, and here the sentences are very long. And by that time you are understanding that what is the principal clause and what is the adjective clause and the noun clause and all. Then you forget actually, and who is the subject and who is the predicate. So you have to find out, like when you learned English language, the only thing I was thinking that, in the early age of 7 you went to UK, and that probably the problem actually is created for us, because that expression, it becomes very long, and it can be broken into simple sentence. I am good. It is raining. Also, it can be expressed, but the sentences are abnormally for us, abnormally no, because nowhere you can find such expression, nowhere. And I had been practicing in service actually. Any expression, it should be understandable by somebody. It should be, but I don't know. Nobody must have told him actually that
Badalji, on this, actually people say, I may be wrong, but I have heard from people who give talks through Pondicherry. They say that Sri Aurobindo is not hard to understand. It is just our conception about him. And the only thing is that our mind usually is so dispersed. Our thoughts are so scattered here and there that our energies are not available to grasp him. And once the being is silent through the mother, because he says that you come to me through the mother. So first you access, as if mother is the door to Sri Aurobindo.
ab initio training.
Yeah. So once we silent our mind with the help of the mother's grace and light, I think it's really not that complicated to understand Sri Aurobindo. With Mother's grace, this is really possible. And it is just the mind's usual, in ordinary day-to-day life, we are really actually, no matter how sorted we may be, but we are dispersed. Thoughts are scattered here and
Yeah,
there.
I agree with you. Like the Life Divine. I read, the moment I get new book, I try to see actually what is it. So I could not understand anything. So the person who presented me this book, I asked him that, see, I don't understand anything. Even one paragraph also, I'm not understanding actually how. So he says it will take 4 or 5 years for him to, go through once. So then this problem started, and I have started. I say that I have to go through what, or let anything happen. I'm not going to leave it as it is. Just so much of pen to write, and we have not in position to read and understand what is it actually. So I determined, and whatever capacity I had, within 1 month, I have gone through. Then I saw it was not that difficult as I was thinking earlier. It was not that difficult, but still, I will not be able to say that how much a percentage I have understood. But still, there are certain areas like this paragraph I was reading at least 20 times. I read this paragraph which was sent in the WhatsApp, starting with the status of inner passivity and this
Yeah.
one. So I was reading that first half only I have understood.
Yeah.
Half of this paragraph I have understood, but second half not in a position to understand. I was trying to understand what it is. So if today time is there, if anybody can explain the second part of it,
Yeah.
what is it?
I feel, Badalji, since all the things that Sri Aurobindo shares, it is all coming from his own practical experience. He is not philosophizing about it. So he is the passive Brahman, he is the active Brahman, and that's why he can, talk about it and write about it in so much of detail. And I also felt when I was going through these lines, which I shared on the WhatsApp group, I felt that before a practical dipping in that experience, we will not be able to understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
And that is what we were talking in the beginning, this withdrawal into this passive Brahman. It has to be really tasted. We have to marinate ourselves in that activity, if one can call it an activity. And then slowly, in whatever capacity I feel, that we realize what he's saying because it has been our own experience. So I feel since he's talking through his experience and not theory, it is not possible for us just to mentally understand what he's saying. So I'm absolutely with you that only in bits and pieces we understand through thought, and then we have to dip ourselves in this passive Brahman, if I can use that word, and then realize what he's actually saying. So
No, in fact, from childhood, we are interested. And if we understand the meaning, then it becomes quite interesting. Any topic, any subject, if we understand in our way, actually, everybody's understanding is unique. So nothing to compare. But in the general understanding what I have, if I understand something by reading, then it generates more interest actually. What is it? I also know that anything it doesn't take place in one day. It's maybe lives. So many lives must have been spent. It is not that in this life only I have to understand everything or something. It may not be possible. At the same time, the person who has written, he may be having not one life's experience, maybe hundreds of life experience, practical experience, which is experienced and expressed or manifested. So there may not be like normal human being like us, but the realization has taken place in that fashion, and then it has been expressed actually. So probably in this life it may not be possible. So you have to try again. Whatever is possible, you have to be with it actually.
Badalji, it is said that when you read Sri Aurobindo, whatever he has written, especially Savitri and Life Divine, especially Life Divine because it is, they say, tougher to understand than Savitri. What you find is that the first reading which you make is totally on a mental plane because you just want to read cover to cover, whether it is Savitri or Life Divine, it's almost a mechanical mental read with a couple of words that we translate in the literal sense and we take it. When you go to the second read, and if you do it with a slight silence and quietude, it starts to take a different meaning. Slowly it starts to take a different meaning. And then when you get back to it, and after 4 lines, you stop and you say, okay, I will introspect on it today, the whole day, let it ruminate in my mind. And then one tends to realize that, oh, it does make sense. But this, I found for myself, I can say for myself, that this exercise has to be done. And literally you get immersed, you dubo in their work, and it comes like a flash. Like when I wanted to read Life Divine, I sat with the book very ceremoniously and I couldn't figure a thing. And I called up a friend in the ashram and I said, can you help me, kickstart me into reading Life Divine? He said, you can keep kickstarting yourself. You need lives and lives to read it. I said, I am sure Sri Aurobindo did not write something for us not to understand. His aim must have been for us to sink into it. And because on a mental plane, we do not allow ourselves to sink into it devotedly, we are not getting it. So he literally gave me a hammering, and then he sat with me for one paragraph. And I understood that it is just a matter of patience and us sitting down and, taking it in. It will take a totally different viewpoint for you.
Yes.
You experiment with it. Take one chapter only or one page, and then you do a rapid read. Then you do by the third or the fourth time. Oh, it same like when we read Srimad Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
Every reading gives us a new meaning.
Yes.
So I guess we have to sort of make that a practice and probably devote a little more time.
Yeah. Thank you for a very good suggestion. Actually, I will follow the method. Actually, otherwise there is no other second alternative. You have to follow this method only. And in the Life Divine, I was amazed actually. Once I went through, then on the top of the chapter, the slokas have been given from Bhagavad Gita or Upanishad and all this. So then I had all the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita. So I used to go through first this, whatever the references are there, and the particular place where that reference is given. So then I used to understand better after reading that separately and introspection, little bit of thought process. Then I used to read that. Like here also in this particular the passive and the active Brahma. So there the references of Upanishad and Bhagavad Gita. So now I opened Bhagavad Gita and I went through this particular place, like Pravilyante Karmani. So it is actually totally absorbed in this. Actually, you are totally absorbed. That means your originality has lost. It is like that. It's like a toy of salt has gone to measure the depth of the sea water. Then it went inside the water. Then it never came back because it got melted. Nobody could understand where it has gone. Similarly here, so the Pravilyante Karmani, these two words of Bhagavad Gita has been written here in the passive and the active Brahma. Yes, quoted actually. Well, writing. So once I went through there, then now I was not getting in Bhagavad Gita. I almost went through the thing. Then I asked somebody who is a teacher of Bhagavad Gita. So I asked him. So he says, 4th chapter, 23rd sloka. So then it was the total, like we had been talking about the music or the art and all this. Means you totally get dissolved or you melted away in that. Its originality is lost. So you have to go through with a lot of patience and the understanding. So that is why there's some places the Guruji is required. The Guru will guide you actually. Right?
Our little Gurujis are sitting there. They are the one who lug out the chavi and we jump.
Yeah.
Both
So
I
of them.
totally agree. Absolutely. I want to take this day to really thank Divine, Life Divine, and all of you all. Like
no, but I am a believer of this that first you have to try actually whatever faculty you have got. With all the faculty, you have to try to understand. If you are not, then at that stage only you must refer to the Guruji. Not that in the first itself, I read once, I could not understand. If you start explaining from the beginning, no, not that way. So I always have taken help only when you get stuck. Where you got stuck, only that portion. Say I started from this, I came here, came here. Now I got stuck. So such that the Guruji also understands what exactly is the difficulty. Whether from the beginning I am understanding or it is I am the different perspective and I am trying to understand something. So then perspective has to be changed. So that is why first I try myself, and then when the other sources are not working, then probably help is required. So that was the thing.
There is one question what Badalji has shared, which I want to put forward. So there is something that we understand through thought, and there is something that we cannot understand through thought, which we understand through the spaces between the thoughts. So you have a thought, then there is a silent period. It may be a very short period. At times it may be a long period. Something happens there. What you were referring to, Badalji, the salt dissolving in the ocean. So the salt, crystal of salt, went to understand the ocean, and it got dissolved in the ocean. Yeah, this happened in the silent time. Now the crystal formed again. Yeah, a thought comes again. And now it tries to describe what happened when the dissolution happened. But it cannot ever put it fully, cannot ever. And that is why all the labels, the definitions, anything that we use, they are nothing but pointers. Yeah, so I think this is beautiful that you touched upon it, that the only way, again, coming from what I understand at this moment, is that the only way to realize what we call the self-realization, we don't have to say it that, no, this is not going to happen in this life. Why not? Why not? Because we are born for it. No, it is our birthright. Self-realization is our birthright. So I cannot keep myself away from it, because without that, I'm not ever going to be happy, contented. So the thing is that the thought is there. I'm trying to understand a concept or a philosophy or Sri Aurobindo through thought. I'm getting very little. I'm getting very little. Now something happens and I get immersed. I dissolve. In that moment, I understand. Yeah. And then since I have to speak it out, since I have to share it out, I rise up again from that ocean. Another crystal rises up. But whatever it will tell will be very, very minute. It will be just a pointer towards the divinity. But I think this constant dipping and then rising, dipping and then rising, dipping and then rising, this is what maybe, I'm not sure, maybe this is what Sri Aurobindo and Mother would call the transformation of the mind. It's a mind constantly having dips in the holy Ganges, or the ocean of silence or nothingness. And this nothingness is pregnant with potential. This nothingness is not an empty nothingness. This nothingness is full of that creativity which we see around in the world. So that is the source of all creation. Maybe I have used maybe too many words here, but that is what I feel, that we do not understand. Even yesterday I was talking to Taru about music. There are notes that are there. So if I'm playing music, there are notes. Now the same notes, if I play with a different spaces in between them, if I don't give them enough space, the music is going to be absurd or different. So what is making the music is not only the notes, the spaces between the notes, but we ignore the spaces. And just like that, when we are trying to understand or grapple a concept, all we understand is through little glimpses through the thought. But when we truly, really understand, we see that it's through the silence that we understand more. And there, then something rises up again, and we want to express the silence out. So again, referring to Sri Aurobindo's words also, I think, I feel that there is a lot of calmness and quietude required so that we can, also our practical experiences, so that we can touch where he's pointing at.
Monica, just to add,
Almost like withdrawn. The calmness means now you're fed up, so you are withdrawn yourself. You're not understanding. You tried so many times, then you withdraw actually. So that is also calm only. Chup chap baithe ho. So that should not come actually. I mean, Ramakrishna Paramahansa also, he went to the mother Kali and he said that you have to appear in front of me. And it was not happening and all. Then he says that there was one, instrument by which you can cut the neck. So he says, now I will finish myself. That is whether you come or not. So then the mother came out from that stone, the image, and mother was holding the hand. No, you will not. Something like that. That what I was narrating, that in this life it is not possible. We'll try in the next. But he says that if I am your son, you have to come, and you have to see. Means I have to see that. How can I not understand? If you have written this book, for us, how dare that I will not understand? Means we have to punish ourselves. Probably we have to punish ourselves and then probably to go ahead. We shouldn't lose heart at any stage. Thank you for that.
Yes. So today I didn't have anything to read. I just wanted to listen, but this question made me think, okay, I have read something about this. So I got this book I have about now, which Taraji gave to me, Growing Up with the Mother. And it has a question, similar. So I'll just read that. Then I just got that book because it just felt relevant. So she asks, Sweet Mother, how should we read your books and the books of Sri Aurobindo so that they may enter into our consciousness instead of being understood only by the mind? So I'll just read the answer. To read my books is not difficult because they are written in the simplest language, almost the spoken language. To get help from them, it is enough to read with attention and concentration and an attitude of inner goodwill with a desire to receive and live what is taught. To read what Sri Aurobindo writes is more difficult because the expression is highly intellectual and the language far more literary and philosophic. The brain needs a preparation to really be able to understand, and generally, this preparation takes time unless one is specially gifted with an innate intuitive faculty. In any case, I always advise reading a little at a time, keeping the mind as quiet as one can, without making an effort to understand, but keeping the head as silent as possible and letting the force contained in what one reads enter deep inside. This force, received in calm and silence, will do its work of illumination and will create in the brain, if necessary, the cells required for the understanding. Thus, when one rereads the same thing some months later, one finds that the thought expressed has become much clearer and closer and even at times quite familiar. It is preferable to read regularly, a little every day, and at a fixed hour if possible. This facilitates the brain's receptivity. So I think all that you all said, everything is relevant.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Resonates very deeply. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Taru, you wanted to share. I think you had unmuted earlier. If you want to share now.
actually, it was more in line with the, but yeah, first of all, I just want to say it's so amazing that it can create cells for better understanding. I mean, of course, it doesn't sound like a big thing, and yet when I heard it, it sounded quite miraculous. I was saying that I somehow have this feeling that, how in life, when we are living, it's like we have to go from more ego to less ego to less ego to less ego to get life, right? Like what we were talking about in the beginning, that how the vital has to be, kind of kept back, and then like everything has a limitation, and then you have to transcend it. So I think similarly, somewhere I feel that even with the big texts like say Life Define, Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, I mean, when we approach it with a lot of spiritual ego, right? And now I am the one who reads, Upanishad, or I will read Ramayana. So for us to come to our feet is very important. Ki I can't get. And somehow this phrase, I've seen it for myself that I understand. I'm really good at understanding. I can see a lot of ego behind it. And like in life, you have to reach that stage that I cannot do anything, like I don't have control over my circumstances, situations, like I don't, no matter how much I would say I do, I would want to say. And the same feel, I think the same kind of movement has to happen even with texts, because they say these texts are like say shrutis, right? Like life is in them. You have to reach that level of humbleness and कि मेरे से नहीं होगा, like when we hear mother's thing as well, when she says that I had also read it कि just read it and keep it, and you would not even know that when it would come out for you. But for me, reading something and not getting and not asking for people is a ego thing. How come I can't understand? I have to understand. I'm stuck there. It's unresolved. So I just feel that there is something there as well. Even say, I think there was this movie called Da Vinci Code. Tom Cruise, no, Tom, the other Tom, whatever his name is. So I think he had said this, that how the codes and the secrets are hidden in the Bible or say in the Gita, so that this knowledge doesn't fall in bad hands. So as your consciousness evolves and as it becomes like kind of you become less, these become more. And then so that like one person would read it, he would get it at a totally different level. So these books evolve as you evolve. Was I like yeah, something that came to me. And when Abadaji was sharing about the flow, and even Jyotsna ji, it felt, like when you hear live music, like no matter how good your speakers are, their Bose or anything, that when you hear music being played live right in front of you, even if it's just one person playing the guitar or the harmonium, there's something inside you that shifts. There's some joy that you get that is like you cannot not get it, because somewhere something is being created. So it's very beautiful how Badalji was sharing about the flow, that how it happens. So because it's a divine flow, so it cannot be contained, I feel, somewhere, and that's why it spreads wherever it's being done. So I like, so yeah, I guess that's it.
Badalji, there is one very interesting thing that I want to tell you, which came to me when you were speaking. When I visited in one of the visits to the ashram, in Smriti, over there where all the things, artifacts are kept, uh, as I was going along each thing that Mother and Sri Aurobindo used to use, there was this little typewriter. It is barely this much. And it was lying there. So I called one of the sadhaks from the ashram and I asked her, what is this? And she said, this is the typewriter on which Sri Aurobindo typed all his manuscripts. And it is said, it is hearsay, but it is said by those who used to live with him that he barely used to sleep, and his fingers used to just fly on that typewriter. There was no, you couldn't make out what he was touching. And when he was asked, he said, I do not type. It is coming and it is typing. And I was so humbled when I heard all that, that I realized that if he could stay up day and night and type on that little mechanical thing for us, volumes and volumes, so many for us. I am sure he had the confidence that if we immersed ourselves deep enough, we will gain from them. That is how I got the confidence when I came back home, and I said, no, I'm sure he expected us to make very, very sincere attempts to read. So
Thank you. It's a good input. Even Swami Vivekananda, when he went to US, that the first lecture which he gave, so he was a bit scared because such a great gathering, and he was given a chance hardly after a lot of struggle. So he says that I started off. Then after that, the words started coming. As if somebody is speaking through me. Means the only lips are moving, but actually it was something else actually. And same thing happened. The another gentleman who went to teach yoga at US is Paramahamsa Yogananda. The Vivekananda has mentioned there that somebody from India will come at a later stage to teach you that yoga, because other than teaching yoga, he will not be having any other job. So then the chap also, he says that my legs are trembling actually. The first time when he faced the crowd, he was graduate and all from Calcutta University, but when he started speaking, he's saying that I was out of words. So I got scared that what to say, because they have announced my name. And he says, then I remembered my Guruji, and I started off. And again that the sentences were coming through me only, as if I didn't know what I have spoken actually, but it was so like that. It takes place. Probably I was trying to find out that how it takes place. These are all it's possible. It is not that we may not be able to do, but yes, we have to have 100% belief that yes, it is possible. We can do.
So, what you were sharing, Badalji and Jyotsnaji, I remembered these lines of Savitri, which we were reading a few days earlier. This thing, what you were sharing, that he was possessed by, as if some voice started to, he was not speaking and somebody else. So here it says, this when the divine descends and elects a vessel, there was this description here. Let us read these lines here. Or a revealing force sweeps blazing in out of some vast superior continent. Knowledge breaks through, trailing its radiant seas, and nature trembles with the power, the flame. A greater personality sometimes possesses us, which yet we know is ours, or we adore the master of our souls. So I just recollected these lines when you were talking. And Nandini, you want to share something?
Hi. No, I saw the rungs of love that was sent this today on the WhatsApp messages. Yeah, so I had read those lines. I think it's been about more than a year or two, and it has come up again. And you realize that, I mean, at least for me, it felt so differently to read the same thing again. And yeah, so that was a really nice message today. That's the bit I have today. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So do we want to go over that passive active Brahman, or shall we? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So again, first of all, I think it's beautiful to have it in continuation, because as Badalji was sharing that he's continually sharing, you know, Sri Aurobindo is continually sharing. So it's good to read it in like a continuation. But I think this is something which we can touch upon, and then those of us who are interested, they can at home, or if they're interested, they can go by deeper in it. So he's talking about this inner passivity, this state of an inner passivity. So we'll talk about it, what it appears to be, this inner passivity, and an outer action independent of each other is a state of entire spiritual freedom. You know, so we yearn for this freedom in our life. Yeah, that my actions are liberated from the bondage of my tendencies. Yeah, the yogin, as the Gita says, even in acting does no actions, for it is not he, but universal nature directed by the Lord of nature, which is at work. So this is, I believe, again, talking from my own understanding, which can be really flawed. So give me that benefit of doubt. So once we know ourselves as the one which is sakshi of all that happens in life, and establish myself there, you know, I know myself as that, this inner passivity, then I'm actually freed from the action, the law of cause and effect, because I'm not indulging in them. Things are happening, I'm not making them happen through my own desires or ambitions. Yeah, he is not bound by his works, because now if I am the witnessing aspect, then what is the desire that is there in the witnessing aspect? There is no desire in that state. Yeah, he is not bound by his works, nor do they leave any after effects. So we have after effects, we have residues, mental and emotional residues, because there is something restless in us which wants to get fixed through the external situation. When that does not happen, or something goes here and there, I'm left with residues. Yeah, so since I'm not wanting anything done, I am content in that sakshi bhav, there is no residues that are there, you know, through my works. He's not bound by works, nor do they leave any after effects or consequences in his mind. So whether the external work gets done or it does not get done, I am okay, I am content, you know. Yeah, they vanish and are dissolved by this very execution, and leave the immutable self unaffected. So what is my immutable self? The sakshi bhav. It is untarnished by all that I have gone through in previous lives. It leaves the soul unmodified. Therefore, this would seem to be the poise the uplifted soul ought to take if it has to still preserve any relations with human action in the world existence, an unalterable silence, a tranquility, a passivity within, an action without regulated by the universal will and wisdom, which works, as Gita says, without being involved. Now, although I am cooking, but there is no expectation from cooking. If the cooking goes bad, doesn't matter, because who am I am content with myself. Yeah, so I can cook again. So there would be no mental and emotional residues there, because I'm not trying to complete myself through worldly actions. Yeah, is there a comment? I'll just. Okay. Yeah. Yes. And certainly this poise of a perfect activity, now this is the challenge, I believe, you know, this is the challenge, this is our challenge. Certainly this poise of a perfect activity founded upon a perfect inner passivity. Yeah, so this is our task. This is, I would say, the yoga. Again, so much to it, but yet I can really see that this is something which is a challenge for us, that I have to establish myself in that inner witness, know myself as the inner witness, so that all the activity is founded upon that understanding. Yeah, and not living as the ego or the separate self. which is trying to complete itself through outer actions. This poise of a perfect activity founded upon a perfect inner passivity is that which the yogin has to possess. As if, as we have seen in the yoga of works, this is the yoga of works, the union of the outer work with the inner divine. But here in this status of self-knowledge at which we have arrived, there is an evident absence of integrality. Now although I know myself as passive Brahman and I'm very content with it, but the integrality is lacking. I leave the word as it is. That I say that I'm complete. I'm not trying to complete myself through my works. So this integral aspect, that all the actions, all the speech is informed by that inner awareness or inner knowing, that is lacking. He's saying there is still a gulf, an unrealized unity or a cleft of consciousness between the passive and the active Brahman. Yeah, we still have to possess consciously the active Brahman, whatever the activities I am involved in, the speech, the behavior, my relationships, my workplace, my finances, all that active Brahman. We still have to possess consciously the active Brahman without losing the possession of the silent self. That this reminds me of what Kabir says. There is this lady who is walking on this rope tied up in the air. Now she also has to dance beautifully, but she also does not have to lose the parallel consciousness of the awareness of the rope. What happens with us is that we may be dancing beautifully, but for the moment we have lost that awareness of the Brahman within. Yeah. So I feel this is the challenge, as he shares, that this is the gulf that we have to bridge. We have to preserve the inner silence. काम भी पूरा करना है. काम में भी कोई कमी नहीं रहनी चाहिए. We have to preserve the inner silence, tranquility, passivity as a foundation, but in place of an aloof indifference to works. कि भैया जो हो रहा है. खाने पे मक्खी बैठ रही है तो बैठ रही है. I'm indifferent. It doesn't matter. So aloof, in place of this aloof indifference, the works of active Brahman, we have to arrive at an equal and impartial delight. So the work is going to be beautiful, and yet there is an impartiality there, because the work is not a means to complete or fulfill me. I am already content, I am already fulfilled, and yet I want to put that beauty out. What, for example, Jyoti Priya was doing. Mother says that you have already realized your soul. So now your works are your sadhana. Your actions will be sadhana. And mother says that whatever difficulties you will see in people that you interact with, that is the difficulty that you have to transform within yourself. Yeah. So yeah, that is what I could connect with in this. Yeah, if there are any reflections or sharing.
Monica, what was the last sentence you said? You will only see difficulty with the people you interact with, or in the people. What did you say?
So yeah, so mother said that in case you see difficulties or a challenge in people you are interacting with, since she was involved in a lot of interaction with people, that is the difficulty that you have to transform within yourself. When mother says, all difficulties lie within you. So her sadhana is at a global level, at a commune level, and whatever difficulties she gets in those people she is interacting with, that is the particular change that she has to realize within herself. That is what the mother told her.
This gulf and cleft, once more, some repetition.
Yeah. So this one. Yeah.
Yes.
But here in this status of self-knowledge at which we have arrived, there is an evident absence of integrality, for there is still a gulf, an unrealized unity or a cleft of consciousness between the passive and the active Brahman. So what I could relate here is that, for example, I am in my silence and I am stabilized in my witnessing aspect. As long as I am in my silence, I am okay. I am enjoying it. The moment somebody says something, or maybe the guy wants to do potty and I have to clean the potty, the actions are they informed by that inner witness, or are they informed by the separate self or the ego? This is the cleft or the gulf, as if I'm not able to manage that unity, and that is what Sri Aurobindo says here, that this is what our sadhana is at. This is the gulf that we have to bridge. In Savitri also, it is in few lines, it is shared that this is the gulf that mother came, in existence for us, that with her help, we can bridge this gap, the inner and the outer. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Notice.
So Monica, would it all? I mean, when I was going through it, it also reminded me of how Mother talks about the parallel consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like that only, right? Like something in you is always connected, while the other is doing the actions.
And that is why I use that Kabir example, because there you need the parallel consciousness, or else you slip. And even after slipping, after falling, you realize, okay, the awareness was not there. And the other thing is that somebody asked Mother that I'm okay when I'm remembering you in silences, but when I'm actively involved in game or anything, I forget you. So Mother says that when you have pauses in between, you begin from that. And slowly, in the middle of the game also, you would have this, again, a process of time. Yeah.
Somewhere Mother says that when you forget in between, you call me and tell me to kick the football, me to throw the ball. So when I paint, I say, Mother, now you paint. It's going out of gear. I can't do it. You paint through my hand. And so she says, call me back to do that mechanical action. And
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I think that's what, to Huta the Mother shares again and again, that I never go away. You go away. And that's what we do. We go into our stories. We are lost in our past and future. And Mother is right here with all the grace and love, and a call away again, the moment we call.
It's very, very beautiful. Yeah. It really, like, something touched my heart. Very nice.
I have one suggestion. When you all post on the group, if you can put down the source so that we can go back and then read and see the precedent and the antecedent and the what follows. It sort of helps us to consolidate better.
Calling it a day. Taru is ready.
I don't want to say anything, then I'll get called upon that I always want to call it a day.
No. I'm okay.
When I was thinking roti banana hai, but like, let me be in this space, silent, and action ho jayega. I was just thinking of that.
Now the task is roti banate bhi how to enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yes, Badalji, you wanted to share
Nice,
something?
thank you. Nice actually. So
Thank you.
today is Guru Purnima, so
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
have a real
Pranam on Guru
lesson.
Purnima.
everybody, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't
Thank you
even
so
know.
much.
Thank you. Telling.
Okay, thank you for joining, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for all the conversations and insights. Really, very beautiful. Thank
And
you.
thank you for your participation. I think we are, as we say now, we are all walking each other home. That's what we
Yeah.
are doing, all of us. Yeah,
Each person is a guru to another.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.